Today, we are running through 5 rules which are going to make or break your training plan. Number 1, power and speed comes first. When it comes to scheduling your training and planning out your week, you should always prioritize neural over metabolic. What I mean by this is neural adaptations, or things that are going to focus on high neural recruitment, so maximum strength or power training, versus something that is more endurance training, which might be looking at predominantly a metabolic training stimulus. Making proper strength and power gains means you need to access that top few % of muscular recruitment. To do this, it needs to be done in a low fatigued state. If you're trying to hit a metabolic stimulus like endurance training, a little bit of fatigue is less likely to impede performance as it would with strength and power training. This means the practical advice when training multiple training stimuluses within the same session, you always prioritize strength and power first. If you're going to schedule across different days, particularly if it's consecutive training days, that first day should focus on strength and power, and then the second day should be more focused on endurance. Rule number 2. Training is just the tip of the iceberg. Don't be deceived. Training is really easy to monitor, and you can see progression from session to session. So it can take the forefront in our mind when we think about the adaptations over time. However, probably what makes the most difference is everything that goes on around your training and lays the foundation for adaptation. Normally, when my clients tell me about some success they've had in their project or climbing, it's also followed by conversations around how they've also managed to sort out their sleeping pattern, maybe their nutrition is better, or work has been a lot less stressful lately. This just goes to show it's normally a collection of factors, and if you can put the work in to make sure that your training is supported by everything else, your training will be massively more effective. It's definitely easier said than done changing things in your lifestyle, but if you can, just work on changing one habit at a time, even if that's nutrition, your sleep, maybe it's even warm-up habits. There's a good book called Atomic Habits, which makes a good case for small habits having a really large compounding effect over the long duration. And this is definitely true for your training. If you want to train as hard as an athlete, you have to live like an athlete. This is the foundation of training and recovery. Number 3, cramming. You did this at school where you had to do loads of revision for a test, or maybe you did the essay the night before it needed to be handed in. Now you've got a training plan and you've left all your training to the end of the week. This means you break a fundamental rule in training: quality before quantity. If you cram all of your training into 1 or 2 days, it means your training sessions are going to be huge. And this means whatever comes towards the end of those sessions is generally going to be pretty poor quality because you're tired. 2 bits of practical advice to help with avoiding cramming. The first is, if you can only get to the gym on the weekends, or your busy work schedule means that you are less likely to get to the gym, try and work into your plan things that you can do at home. So hangboarding, core training, stretching. Get this stuff done in other sessions at home during the week, and then save your larger climbing sessions, for example, or strength-based sessions in the gym, save that for the weekend. Secondly, accept that you can only do so much, and if you cram in these monster sessions, it's just not going to yield the results that you're hoping for. Normally, all that training you had to do at the end of the session when you're already tired just digs an even deeper hole of fatigue that you now need to recover from. What you should do is take a step back, look at the sessions you have, and prioritize the training sessions or units within there that are most important to you and are your priority. Cut your losses and you can benefit more from your training. Number 4, less pain, more gain. Not every training session is a competition with yourself. Too many times I've heard someone say, oh yeah, my aero cap session was savage, I got totally boxed. And normally this is not the intention. This should be low intensity. Many sessions can be low intensity and still be a good training session. The tendency for climbers to always go really hard in their sessions often brings about the conception that climbers do way too much training. Now, in many cases, elite level climbers are training multiple times a week, 5 or even 6 times a week. And this is actually okay, but we need to remember that they're not doing really intense training sessions that many times a week, or at least they shouldn't be if they're trying to make good gains. Particularly if we're looking at fitness gains, the volume of training you're doing needs to be really high to make those gains. So elite level sport climbers, for example, should be doing a really high volume of training, but it just won't be at really high intensities all the time. And this way we find the balance. If you only consider your workout good when you're totally blasted and tired, try to change your mindset a little bit, where that leaving the gym fresh with lots of energy still, that can still be a good workout. Number 5, if in doubt, check out. No plan can account for a really bad night's sleep or a work trip that pushed all your training into the weekend. If you're feeling tired or you're just entering a session and you're not feeling quite up to it, especially in sessions that require you to be on top form, like a projecting session or a board session, don't feel guilty for walking away from that session or making adjustments on the day. A good tip here is make sure you have a routine warm-up that progressively builds in intensity. This helps give you a gauge on how you're feeling each session because you're so familiar with how you feel every time you do it. So you're not having a good session. It happens, don't worry about it. I've got two options for you. First option, it's time for a short session. Here, what I want you to do is just have less sets or do less boulders in the session, but try and keep the intensity the same. This way, the training stimulus and intention of your session remains the same, so you're still shooting for the same adaptations, but you're gonna do less volume. And in this way, the quality can still remain high and you'll have less training to recover from after. Option number two, if you feel like you can't keep the intensity up, is to change the intention of the session. Don't risk going over the threshold of this session and choose an easier option. Potentially something that's just a bit more fun, maybe a social session, or do something that you enjoy in your training. Particularly if you're not feeling up to it because you're more stressed out or you've had bad sleep, I think one of the best things to do is just enjoy the training session. Life is stressful enough, just go have fun. I hope these 5 rules help lay a good foundation for your training to be as effective as possible. If you've got any rules you abide by in your training, let us know in the comments below. Don't forget to like and subscribe and we'll see you next time.